Welcome to the Soboye Boutique, who, in partnership with Urban Enterprise Network, are hosting the event Accessing the Mainstream, African Influence in Fashion and Design. This evening's discussion examines the impressive impact and ongoing influence of African style and design in the fashion and wider creative industries. We are bringing together designers, suppliers, makers, press, and those with an interest in the capital's creative scene to discuss these matters.
Tonight is about the industry. It's about the makers, the designers and the suppliers. It's about people like Samson. It's about the people who actually supply people like Samson, and it's glorious being here. Every time I come here, it's magnificent.
Is that we're here, we're going to stay here, we're trying to keep and maintain our presence on the street. I did the Africa Utopia event as a kind of a wake-up call, if you like, to the people that think that we're just sort of fly-by-night, here for the minute, a trend that is just here today and gone tomorrow. I have been here for 10 years. I have always represented African designers. My own designs are here, but this summer I thought I made a big splash of it by inviting other designers in, and the response has been overwhelming. Dion Goodin, who's here, he's one of our shoe designers here. He's not African, but uses African fabric as a point of reference, and the amount of people that have come in, not just Africans, people from all over. The Olympics were here and it brought a lot of people in, but people were like, wow, they love the explosion of colour, the different textures. I'm all about luxe, I'm all about glitter and bling, and bringing it to a place where it's accessible and aspirational. So everyone that comes in here immediately feels that what I'm trying to bring across, and they love it. I've not met somebody yet that hasn't liked the shop. People that our designers want to sell here, and the shoe designers that I have here, they just want to be part of the shop and they're not selling anywhere else.
Well, one of the points made about it being the work of African designers being overexposed. It hasn't. Because I'll give an example. I was at Shoreditch House and I was speaking to the stylist for Dolce & Gabbana in Italy, and I asked him, because I was doing this, ask people, which African designers do you know? And he could only come up with one name, and that was Bumikoko, because he had seen the marriage, the wedding coverage. And I happened to have a copy of this book, and I showed him, and he couldn't believe we had all of this going on there. And this is someone who you would feel is, should be in the middle of all the media, what's going on around the world, because he has access to all of that. So in terms of that, it isn't overexposed. It only feels so. It's only those who are within the industry who say that, but outside in the mainstream, it isn't. So there's still a lot of scope for that. It's not their primary market. Most of them, their primary markets are where they're located. The main reason they come to show here is mainly to strengthen the visibility of their brands and the respectability of those brands. But any of us who have actually been to places like Ghana, Accra, Johannesburg, we know that it's very vibrant over there. I mean, people make stuff, they can't make enough of what they're doing. So in terms of them wanting exposure in the West, yes, they want the exposure up to a point, but they're very focused on the retail aspects of their businesses.
Known as the mainstream media, and writing about fashion, writing about style. I did a black beauty column for 5 years, and just and that was on The Guardian, and that was the first and the only column specifically for black women in a mainstream newspaper. Now, when that column started, it was quite a battle. The editor of the section was behind the column. It was actually her idea. It wasn't my idea, but there was this constant battle where people were saying, aren't you going to run out of things? It's a black beauty column. Aren't you going to run out of stuff? Now, first of all, I could have written about hair every week, which would have been fine. I would never have run out. But to me, that really shows how some people still consider anything that's black, and then if you add that to fashion or books or whatever, as limiting, as a narrow field. So when you're talking about fashion, I think we have to be really careful. I think we have to be really smart. The reason so many other designers have that longevity, because that's what we're trying to strive towards really, is because they strategize. They use the media in a very smart and a very savvy way. And I think that's what what we need to be doing much more. A couple of people in the room here have done this, I'm sure. It's about when you find whether it's a friendly journalist or a publication that you think works with your designs, it's about being a bit pushy. It's about not expecting favours, but it's about making sure that your stuff gets in the press. There are lots of ways that happens, but you can't just expect it's going to happen. You have to, and you have to strategise. Companies spend thousands of pounds on their media, on their press and their PR, and so you probably don't have that budget. So you have to find other ways. I share a studio up the road with a couple of designers, one of whom's a jewellery maker. She set up her company. She probably went full time on making the jewellery maybe a year ago. She's already been in Vogue. She's already been in Grazia. She's already been in the Guardian. She's really kind of pumped her contacts. She's already getting her jewellery on the rings of X Factor judges and all that kind of stuff. That's a lot of extra work. A lot of it she's not being paid half the time when she's sending stuff out, when she's getting she's meeting the stylist and getting it on Jessie J's finger or whatever. But she's been really smart about it. She knew that it's worth your while to send stuff out to shoots. She knew that it's worth your while to contact stylists, and that if you get your ring on Kelly Rowland's finger, of course Kelly Rowland isn't paying for that ring, but then somebody else sees it and somebody else sees it, and it's a really long game. And you have to be prepared for that. You have to be prepared for people not to wear your stuff. You have to be prepared for people to want your stuff for free. It's weird, but it's true. And so you have to, and then you have to follow up those contacts. So it's not enough just to be a fabulous designer. There are lots of fantastic, fabulous designers who don't make it because they don't think about that side of things. They think my stuff is beautiful, people will want it. But if nobody knows about your stuff.
I mean, when Arise started 4 years ago, people were scratching their heads at us, and now we're getting calls. I'm getting calls and emails every other day asking for consultancy, for opinions, for helping an advertiser out, starting a fashion award. I mean, it's just endless.
Yeah.
The International Herald Tribune's going on. Guardian's happening. Vogue Italia is happening. I know everyone worries about Africa being a trend, and yes, wax print might be a trend, but I think we're obviously way beyond that, and that's really exciting. And just sitting in this store, this is what it's all about when it comes to London. You've got African designers here, you've got African inspired designers, you've got European designers, and it all sits together and it all sits on the same pedestal, and it's all accessible to anyone, maybe hipsters, who comes in and wants to buy it. And that's what it should be about. It's really, and responding to what Hannah said, it's kind of a double-edged sword. At the moment it's trendy to be an African designer, but you also just want to be a good designer, and that's where longevity is.
And obviously I certainly do want to hear more about this whole thing about whether those in the industry are preparing themselves well enough. I mean, you spoke very much about you've got to, I think you said strategise about how you're going to sort of access the market, and I'm just and when I hear figures about 20, 30, 40, 50k to actually get to Fashion Week, if you haven't got the basics right, I'm just wondering, is there still just a huge chasm between what somebody wants to do and the reality of actually getting it done? Because just hearing what you've said, it seems that may be the case.
The stuff onto the people. So,
yeah.
See, he's good at this.
but it's, and customers, people that bought from me say that I'm a bit of a pusher. That I kind of push stuff onto people, and I'm actually proud of that, because I do think that you really need to coerce people. Shopping is an event, shopping is an experience. If you've come into my store, you've got to kind of want to leave with something. And yes, we've just launched our online website, but I've always resisted that because it's about a shopping experience. Retail is almost a dead hobby, if you like. So people that come in here, I have to make them feel welcome, make them feel special, and the specialness is what I offer here. If you want to buy ordinary, go to Primark, go to Next, go to wherever those places are. But I can't be offering the same product as what is on the high street. And when we say style isn't about what Vogue has or what Harper's and Bazaar's doing. It's a global thing now, and that's the one good thing about the internet. It's democratized the way we look at style, it's not dictated now from the higher echelons of Condé Nast. And that's what they've woken up to. That you know, the growth of street style. You know, how many people, the bloggers and the sartorialist type thing, street style is so global now, and we can see that is having an effect on what's happening on the high street with the designers. And yeah, it's naive for somebody to say that they've only heard of one designer in this day and age in 2012.
A rise received in that, you know, quite a small pool of luxury and fashion media, mainstream one. How was it received, and where does it sit now?
Well, I think we're still standing alone, to be honest. I mean, we launched in 2008, and we don't really have any real competition yet. So we're very well received. You know, we borrow clothes from all around the world, and we ask for interviews from all sorts of celebrities and A-listers and all the rest of it. And you know, I think if people want to speak to our audience, we're the only vehicle that they can do it and have confidence they're going to get, you know, a proper result. We have a very sort of international and inclusive approach. So if you're a man or woman, there's something you can read. If you're black or white, there's something you can read. If you're in Africa or you're in America, there's something you can read. It's for the diaspora, it's for people on the continent, it's for anyone. That's the idea anyway. You know, it's not an essence or a pride, it's for everyone who's interested.
One thing I would say about working with designers, but I can talk about Lagos, because I've actually got clients who are based in Lagos. I mean, this stuff that we're wearing is a designer called Ito Embassy. He's one of my clients based in Lagos. What you find is that the main difficulty I have with them is getting stock. I've spoken with at length with Samson about that. I can't get stock from them to do anything. For instance, now I dressed Shingai for an event with the launch of her book. She wore this column dress. I was getting so many requests for this dress, and I thought the only way they're going to get that dress is if they physically go to Lagos. So that goes back to my point.
Is that because the market for that dress isn't here?
The thing with designers, I found with designers there, is that their primary market, where they make their money, is in Lagos. And the thing about designers there, their mentality is slightly different over here. Everything they make is for sale. They don't keep their archives, they don't keep samples, and I think Helen would agree, they'll sell anything, they'll sell it. Now if they're selling all their stuff in their primary market, they're not too concerned about the logistics of getting that stuff over here or to the US or whatever, unless they really, really push or they really want it. They all have their own fashion weeks now. Ghana just had theirs, Botswana, Kenya, Tanzania, and what it's doing for sub-Saharan Africa is rebranding, because it's not talking about you know, the conflicts or the food problem. It's like fashion is glamorous. And it instantly rebrands the country, and it makes you look at the country differently, and it gives content. Because fashion is glamorous, it's colourful, it's associated with glamour and famous people, and that rebrands, and all those countries now all want a part of that.
Quite luxurious, all of that. I mean, being a model and you know, the opportunities which are found, which is great, but it. I suppose my question is, it isn't buying a pair of jeans, is it? It's not buying a pair of jeans. Are you suggesting that across Africa, is that it's viewed as being beyond the sort of norm? I mean, if you want to get involved in style and fashion, that you're seen as a provider of luxury, a provider of dreams, or is it for the masses in Africa?
It can be,
but is it?
It's not there yet, but it's certainly better than it was.
I mean, I think it ties in for me to the diaspora question you just asked. I don't think it's just fashion. I think, you know, to be working in any area of the arts is in some ways considered a luxury, and to be able to do that you have to have, and to consume them, you have to have a certain level of economic stability and confidence. And so if you're talking about the diaspora experience, you know, so parents may come and it was just get a job, it was survive, you know, and then it's get a better job, and it's generally kind of the third generation that are able to be, you know, that don't have to be lawyers and doctors or whatever, or aren't doing the surviving jobs. It's, you know, it takes that amount of time before you can be in a creative industry, you know, and that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing that across literature, we're seeing it across fashion. I think that's why certainly here, and I'm completely diasporic. I was born there, but I live here. And for me, the connection with the fashion, you know, being here, Samson, just fills me with joy. Do you know what I mean? It really, really does. It's so incredible on so many levels, and that is the connection I have with, you know, I'm East African, I'm not West African, but I love wearing prints. I know the history of prints, I know all of those things, but I also know that when I go to a meeting and I'm in prints like this, and it's a meeting full of white guys in suits, that does make a difference, actually. But it takes balls to do that. I probably wouldn't have done that when I started at The Guardian. But now, you know, and it's those things, they're so complicated and they're so interwoven, and they're all part of this whole debate, I think.
Yeah. Helen, you made a mention of you wear the prints, you enjoy it, and you know what the prints mean. Yeah. And that's one of the things I'm sort of conscious of actually raising as a discussion, is the whole thing about, I think, and I don't know, and Helen and Ola and Samson, you can probably correct me, is I think one of the attractions with style and fashion and influence from the African subcontinent is the fact that it does, what you wear and what you style and how it's presented has a meaning. You know, there's a story and there's a meaning.
Not always, though. Sometimes it's just fashion. I think it needs to be able to also be just fashion sometimes. It could just be a beautiful brooch.
But should it be? I mean, and is that...
Always. It's the same. I don't think we should... I think it should be able to be both.
Yeah. So there is a sense where you feel the tradition and the story behind it.
Well, not everything has to have a tradition and a story. You know, I think it doesn't have to always be. Yeah, I think there's a danger of it. You know, and I think that's the problem I have sometimes with the way that the African fashion, African designers are represented in the media. There always has to be, and it's always called tribal, and it's always prints, and I makes me want to shoot myself sometimes. And I think sometimes I think what we're hopefully going towards is just a great pair of shoes. Sometimes it's just a great pair of shoes, or it's an incredible hat. That's what it is. And because that's how other fashion is judged. So I think that's really important for the longevity as well. But you know, what in terms of the meaning, what I was trying to say is, if I'm in a meeting, if I'm doing a talk or whatever, and I'm wearing, you know, now I don't have enough, but maybe I'll have left here with more. But if I'm doing, you know, when I do a lot of public speaking, and when I'm doing it, I make sure that I have something on that's, you know, whether it's a ring from Eritrea.
Why? If it isn't the tradition, but if it isn't, if it's just fashion, why not? Because it's because if it's not that if I don't, who will, but because it's like the books on my case. It's like it says something about me. It says. So it means something.
It means something to me, but I want other people to look at it and go, "Oh, where's that ring from? It's Eritrean. Oh, where's that from? Who?" But also attach the names to it as well, not just an African designer. Know who it is. Yeah. You know, because that also doesn't happen enough.
Yeah, the East African, is it South African?
Yeah, where is it from? For God's sake, you know. And that's really important.
I think it's kind of a grown-up thing, just like Hannah said, is it can be both. You know, I mean, in my book I deliberately chose a wide range of designers, a different aesthetic. Some were very Afrocentric and everything was based on their history and their culture and a certain reference. And other designers want to be completely, well, I wouldn't think contemporary, but you could never tell they were African by looking at their clothes, and they're perfectly free to do that. You know, but what is interesting to me is when the two sort of combine, and when your designer thinks it through and goes really deep into something that really interests them. They pick fabric that a Western or a new audience has not seen, and they develop it again, and they reprint their own fabric, or they, you know, it's not in your face necessarily, but it's unique to them and it has a story behind it. And that's like a new type of luxury for a new type of consumer.
One thing I want to add is that within quite a few West African countries, the wax print is not considered a luxury fabric. So
it isn't.
It isn't.
It's a pair of jeans.
Well, more or less. It's something that is the fabric you buy in the market. You take it to your tailor and they make something for you. It's only now, it's only slowly, because I remember when, I think it was Tiffany Amber had a coat made of a wax print, and people were saying, what, £400 for this? I said, my tailor will make it, you know, and I have better fabric or whatever. But that's changing now, because people actually want to be associated with those brands.
So they will pay £400 for something which is relatively...
They have the clientele.
Well, what happens when it isn't all about Africa anymore? What happens when it does go to sort of Mexico, or I don't know, it could be the next big thing?
That's actually a good point.
Yeah, you know, how do people?
The point I'm going to make is that there are people who are working in diaspora, and all these things that we're all talking about, they don't care about. I remember we're at the event at the at Shoreditch House up in Design Africa, and I was saying to someone that all these points we're raising, debating about, people over there, they don't care about any of that. They're making their stuff, they've got their shops, they're selling it, they're making their money. Because people look at Africa Fashion Week London. The first one was funded by Ronke Ademului. Now, that one just has a shop in Lagos and Abuja. She just sells her stuff. She came from Lagos over here. She doesn't live here to do Africa Fashion Week London. And she used her own money. This was the first one she did. I don't know, but I think she's charging now. So the point I'm making is that people just carry on regardless. And this whole thing about trend, and also because we've got very good designers. Because like you were saying about luxury, there are different hierarchy of designers as there are in the mainstream. So the ones who are very good will continue to get noticed regardless.
For events like Arise Magazine Fashion Weekend that happened in Lagos, and I haven't been there. I'm a designer, by the way. I haven't been there. I don't know. I've not been in Nigeria for a few years now.
Stopped at Soboye now.
But I understand that some models were flown in from around the world, and there was a big budget. I'm not sure how true that is. And you know, and
are you sure you do this independently?
No. I just wanted to ask, like, for events like that happen in Africa, with bringing designers from all over Africa to a country and having a big fashion show. Why are they not like focused on bringing fashion agents or bringing buyers to this sort of events? Why, if you can afford to fly in international models, or why can't you have fashion agents and buyers from, I don't know, Harrods or Barney's to come in? And because I see some of the designs we have by African designers, and I feel they can't be on the red carpet at the Oscars or the Grammys with Versace or whatever. And I just wonder why that doesn't happen.
Well,
with this event.
Be more, to be quite honest. We fly in some press and some big name press, but the next stage is to bring the buyers and convince the buyers that it's worth their time, because there's no point having all this glamour and red carpets and gushing and Pelinaja and all this if no one's buying in quantity. One problem we spoke about earlier is the fact that a lot of these designers can't produce in bulk, so even if they get an order, they can't deliver it.
Absolute wins.